Iggy, thank you for joining me for this episode.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
The first question is, do you know what the word Akata means?
I feel like I've heard it before, but I can tell you the meaning off the top of my head. Maybe family. I feel like that's what it could mean.
That's interesting because I actually think someone else said the same thing, and I think it was your brother. So that's funny. Yeah. So, in your opinion, why is there such a divide between Africans and African Americans?
If I'm gonna answer like why there's such a division between the two, it's culture.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think that's the biggest difference between the two is one have a very clear identity of who they are and where they come from, and the other one doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and African Americans are the only people in America who don't have that or who have that issue.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Everyone else is immigrants, you know, so they know they can trace their roots back to their heritage and things like that, whereas most African Americans who don't have that or who trace their roots back to slavery, they've lost that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so they're the only people in America that just have no ties to their roots. Mm-hmm. You know, and unless they're able to investigate and trace their roots back, but even then it's not as accurate as being able to go back to, I can go to Nigeria and I know the exact village my family grew up in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can go back there. But I think that's the biggest divide, and that's where that disconnect happens for most of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah, I was actually just gonna say that. I was gonna say, yeah, like they can't trace it back, or they can, it's just a lot more difficult. And, you know, I think the frustrating part for most African Americans is like, but we didn't choose that. Like we didn't choose that for ourselves. But that's interesting.
They didn't, and that's fair.
Yeah.
You know.
Your identity as it relates to being a Nigerian. Can you share a little bit of that, like your experience? You went back and how long you were there, and
yeah, so I was in Nigeria for a little over 2 years when I went back towards the end of 2014.
Mm-hmm.
I came back in 2017, and I mean, when I was there, I mean, I saw all traits of who I am. People were bold, blunt, prideful, stubborn, but then at the same time, very caring.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Nigerians, I mean, they're very loyal. So it's hard to win their trust, but if you gain their trust and you're somebody that they care about, then they care deeply, you know, and they're very serving and hardworking and incredibly entrepreneurial.
What would you say is the one thing that Africans and African Americans do have in common? Or what's the first thing that comes to mind, rather?
It's honestly hard to say because...
Talk about that.
As far as the main similarities between the two, if you're just talking about like African Americans or like Black people in general, the main similarities between the two is just really the skin color. You know what I mean? Because they're generally very different. Maybe the similarities would be like the love for food and celebration. You know what I mean? Because I say that's common across, I mean, everyone who's African American generally.
Mm-hmm.
We're all foodies and we all love to have a good time.
I appreciate you coming on, cousin. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
Listen, if you think you know what this word means, come on the show and let's talk about it. If you like this episode, like, share, subscribe, and help spread the hope of unity. I leave you with love, joy, faith, hope. Peace.
LAM.